Hey, folks, it's Kary Oberbrunner, and I have here a very special guest, Dr. Tim Elmore. How are you doing today?
Kary, I am super good. I'm trusting you are too.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. It's been a while since I've seen you in person,
Yeah,
back in August,
yeah.
but I remember you building the assessment. I remember you talking to a lot of the John Maxwell team. Many of them bought cases of the books, and you had a
Yeah.
special new kind of diversity day. Why don't you give us hey, what's happened in the last 8 weeks as we talk about your new book launch?
Yeah. Well, viewers, thanks for tuning in. I love Kary. He's a dear friend, and he's really helped a lot with this book because he believes in this message too. First and foremost, this book is all about what I would call an elephant in the room. You know,
Mm,
that big thing that's there, and we all know it's there, but we don't know how to talk about it. So for
exactly.
years, we have talked about ethnic diversity and gender diversity and income diversity and a million other kinds of diversity. But I
Yes.
think this new kind has happened in our lifetime, and it's
Wow.
generational diversity.
Mm,
Kary, you and I have talked about this a million times. There's Gen Z, there's millennials, there's Xers, there's boomers. In
yes.
fact, coming along the backside of Gen Z are the alpha generation. These are our
Wow.
children today that are representing a whole nother paradigm as third graders or fourth graders. And they've just grown up in a very different world than I did. So it's
Absolutely.
really been fun to see the response of audiences. I've been in front of teachers and school administrators who, by definition, have 6 generations on the campus.
Oh my gosh.
And then you've got businesses. Healthcare has been a major industry that's really bought in because the doctors and nurses that are over 40 will go,
Mm.
we don't understand these 22-year-old, medical professionals that have boundaries and, all that stuff that we
Exactly.
know is right. But they've been so sacrificial, probably to the expense of their own
Mm,
personal life. So we've got a clashing set of people that
yes.
know we need each other, but it's often been us and them. And I hate us and them. In fact, you know
Mm,
what my message is these days, Kary?
what's
No
that?
more us and them. It's just us.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, yeah.
I love this. So you just mentioned, and I'm sharing this all over the place. We're blowing this thing up, but you mentioned schools. You mentioned
Yeah.
you know you got the business community
Yeah.
where tell that some people haven't heard the story yet, and I think this encapsulates it so good. Is it Tony with the
Yeah.
Sherwin-Williams? Can you tell that story? Because I think
Yeah.
that's like, wow, people get that.
It's such a picture of what's happening today. So, viewers, I don't know how old you are and what generation you're from, but I think you'll appreciate this. So, a couple of years ago, a student at Ohio University, his name was Tony, still is Tony, but Tony had a part time job while he was in college, his senior
Mm,
year, working at a major brand paint store that you
mm,
would all know. And while he was there, he started mixing funny items like blueberries with white paint, and he'd make this
ooh,
vivid shade of
yeah.
blue. And so he decided to to start a TikTok account and post what he was doing. And
Mhm.
along the way, he just went viral. In
Wow.
fact, to the point of 1.4 million followers
Mm.
and 37 million views. So he immediately thought, oh my gosh, we could market this, we could monetize this. So he put a slide deck together to present to the executives at this paint brand store, but he didn't get anyone interested. He
Mm.
didn't get one set of eyes to look at his slide deck. But
Gee.
Tony did get something, Kary, that he did not expect.
Oh.
Tony got fired.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
he got fired. The executives, the management was just sure this young whippersnapper was doing this on company time, or he
Sure, sure.
was, stealing the paint or distracting the customers. So he gets fired. Now watch this. Tony moves from Ohio to Florida.
Mm.
He now has over 2 million followers, and he has started his own paint store.
Oh, man.
So
That's so
lots to
sad.
this story. I know there's lots to the story that I will admit I don't know and you don't know, but I will
Yeah.
say this. We'd all agree those managers missed a great opportunity to
Mm,
market their brand, their product,
mm.
but they missed it because they were old, he was young, and they just didn't see eye to eye. So it happens
Wow.
all the time. Yeah.
That is so I love it because it's such a good point, and, you mentioned in the book, sports teams and different generations thinking of the whole name and likeness. I think this book's so relevant. And we were chatting before we started today that the funny thing is, for all authors listening, you finish the book and you're like, ooh, I wish I would have put that other
Yeah.
thing there.
Yeah.
What do you, quote, wish you would have put in now that it's had some life a little bit?
Yeah, Kary, thanks for asking. Listeners, this is something that is not in the book, but I wish it was. And I think in the second printing or third printing, we're going to make sure it gets in. When I think about the soft skills that we all need to really create a collaboration instead of a collision between generations, I think of three virtues or three skill sets, qualities. Number one is humility. I cannot mesh with another generation unless I enter that connection with humility, meaning I don't have all the answers. There may be something I haven't thought of yet myself. And I check my ego at the door and maybe my logo at the door. And I come in and I say, I want to be humble and speak as if I'm right, but listen as if I'm wrong. So that's number one. Please, whatever generation we're from, let's embody humility. The second one, though, is respect. Now, I know that's something we've been talking about for decades. Thank you, Aretha Franklin, RESPECT.
Yes.
But I feel like I watch all the time different generations just not respecting each other. I'll speak for the older generation. I'm one of them. We just don't have a lot of respect. If we were honest, for that 22-year-old right out of college that has zero, work experience. But, oh my gosh, my 22-year-olds have so much to teach me. Yes. So respect is huge. And then the third one may surprise you, curiosity. If every single one of us enter every interaction and connection with curiosity, oh, I'm hungry to grow, hungry to learn, we're not going to go wrong. So even if I'm meeting with somebody I think doesn't have my experience, if I'm curious, I'm going to be okay. So humility, respect, and curiosity, if they rule the workplace, we're going to be fine. That would be one major takeaway, Kary.
I love that. That is so true. I mean, I just see your book across the headlines every day. Like, last week with college football, it was, Michigan State fight in the locker room and the tunnel. And I mean, it's easy to be like, well, and yet we don't understand. Again, I'm not putting judgment on this situation, but I'll tell you what, Tim's book has a lens that kind of looks at the whole parade. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's true. It's true.
Otherwise, we just pull out these little things and judge it.
That's what I try to strike at. The goal of this book is not to stereotype the generations, but to understand. So, Kary, you and I've talked about this. You said, Tim, this is kind of a dictionary, and it is. Here are the language that we need to use.
Yes.
You've even told me this. They come from different worlds. We need to use different words. That is so spot on. Thank you for that.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good.
But another word, Kary, that I love to use is, some of you might remember encyclopedias. Everybody knows Wikipedia, where you can Google this or that topic. In many ways, this book is like an encyclopedia where I can look up the boomers and understand, maybe not like, but understand, no wonder they think this way. Look at what they've been through.
Yes.
Or millennials. Oh, I don't like them, but of course they would think that way. That sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So the goal is understanding, and this tool could be a reference guide where you just read chapter 7 or you just read chapter 11 and go, okay, I got what I need to go forward.
I love it. I want to go into the table of contents here because I really like, by the way, folks, Tim's a guy that you want to follow. I mean, he's one of the few people that I follow online because he just puts out great content. And you look at the table of contents. I love this feature in Amazon that we can do. But first of all, you got a foreword from John Maxwell. How cool is that? Because that's an example of you serving under him and different generations. Like, legit, right? Can you tell us about that? I mean, you probably had different languages going on.
Yes. Yeah, we did. So John and I are quite a few years apart. But you know what? I was so honored by him, not only for him to do the forward, but I just spoke at Live to Lead, and I looked over to my right, and in the front row is John Maxwell taking notes on me. and I say that in all humility because I go, oh my gosh, you could teach me so many things. And he does. But I love the fact that at 75 years old, he's still learning from his mentee, So that was really fun.
That's awesome. Okay. And I mean, let's use that example for a moment. Churches. So I
Yeah.
was a pastor, you were a
Yeah.
pastor.
Yeah.
It sounds like, I mean, there's an example of, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, generations when you're preaching to a congregation on a Sunday. So anybody who's got a pastor, tag them on this live stream right now. Like
Yeah.
literally the church elder board, the church
Yeah.
leadership board, they should absolutely read this because every week you have to communicate to, like you said, what would you say, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations?
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. There are, just for the sake of the record, there are 7 generations living on planet Earth right now,
Wow.
simply because people are living longer into their 90s often, and then, children are still being born.
Yeah.
So 7 different mindsets, from the 7 or 8-year-old that are coming up in a smart world, and then all the way to, that greatest generation. Is My Uncle Gene is 99 years old and still driving a motorhome in San
Oh my
Diego, California.
gosh.
I know. But he
Watch
would have a
out.
very different mindset than his grandkids. And
Yeah.
I even watch frustration between the two at
Mm.
the family party at Thanksgiving or whatever.
Yeah.
So I just believe I go back to no more us and them. Let's just make it us.
Wow.
And let's
So
learn
good.
from each other. I think our world is so polarized,
Mm.
Kary.
That's
We've
so
got
true.
to galvanize. I know that sounds so pithy and cliche, but
No,
we need
you're
galvanized, not polarized. And that's my goal. Yeah.
listen, I woke up this morning to a situation in our business where the generation is like, literally, this is what's happening at 9
Yeah.
AM on a whatever
Yeah.
day. Um, it's the generation. It's somebody
Yeah.
younger who, didn't understand somebody older and vice versa.
Yeah.
And now I have to, but I love your book because it's giving me tools. And
Yeah.
so let's walk through a little bit because
Okay.
I love table of contents because it's
Yeah.
kind of like
Yeah.
telling people we're going to go on a journey and
Yeah.
here's the signposts,
Yes. Yeah.
right? So let's talk about this. Part 1, mind the gap.
Yeah.
Why that?
Okay, so that's a phrase if we've been to Europe or especially
Yes.
England. Yeah, stepping onto that subway or that train or whatever, there's always that mind the gap, which means pay attention to the space between where you're standing and where the train is or where the other people are
Mm,
standing. I think there's a gap. It's that term was coined back in the 1960s, generation gap. By the way, it was coined by a Life magazine editor by the name of John Poppy, who was noticing the young baby boomers. Yes, I just said that, young baby boomers 50,
mm,
60 years ago, who were the young whippersnappers. And those older parents didn't understand this crazy generation. Well, here's what's ironic. Now the baby boomers are that old geezer generation, kids today, kids today.
yes.
So
Yes.
you guys you're going to smile, everybody listening. Uh, we have been saying kids today forever, for
Mm.
millenniums. Socrates even wrote back in his day, Socrates said, kids are disrespectful to their parents and they're not listening. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this never goes
Wow.
away. And
Wow.
one day, young people listening, you're going to say it about your grandchildren. Oh my gosh, what's
Yes.
happening? Going to hell in a handbasket. But we
Yes.
all know that doesn't have to happen if we build a bridge. So mind the
Mhm.
gap is about why do we have a gap and how do we build a bridge? Yeah.
So good.
So
Okay, great. Oh, I like this. And then you get into manage the gap.
yeah, yeah. So what I do in this section of the book, listeners, is I try to just say, let's take a look at the builder generation, which would be far past retirement, but sometimes they're still at work or on the campus, doing maintenance or mowing the grass, or maybe they're the owner of the company and at 85, but they're still healthy and they're still around, but they have a very different mindset. Very loyal, very loyal. Work ethic is impeccable. That's why they're
Mm,
still around at 85.
mm,
And I really think they offer sage wisdom
mm.
to us, those timeless virtues that we need to recapture. They got them. So that's the builder.
Wow.
Do you want me to keep going?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the baby boomers, we've all heard about them. If you're on social media, remember this hashtag okay boomer. So that was the younger generations going,
Yeah.
okay, stop making fun of us millennials and Gen Zers here. So the boomers would be the generation I'm from. And by the way, let me apologize for the misbehavior of so many boomers, not all, but many who just don't even know how to get along with each other. I'm so
Mm,
sorry and so sad about
mm.
the leadership we have offered. Please forgive them. They know not what they do.
Yes.
But here's what I think the problem is, if there is a problem, and I think
Okay.
there is. we in the boomer generation have baptized methods that we're familiar with and mistaken them for timeless virtues. Like the way we did things in the 1970s must go on. And that's not true. Mission may stay the same, but methods need to change. And we got those mixed up. So that generation has so much to offer. We're right around retirement age or close to retirement age. And I still believe we have stories to add to the mix. We've got life experience, and we could be coaching. We could be coaching if we're leveraged well on a team.
Yep.
All right. Gen X, that's your generation, Kary, right?
It is.
You're a Gen X. Okay. Yeah. So Gen X would be in the throes of their career. They are the life of the workforce. I shouldn't say life. Everybody's bringing life, but I would say Gen X would be the heart of the workforce now. Often in management positions, leadership positions. They're just past midlife, barely, but many years. But Gen X brings, because they grew up in the times they did, a contrarian point of view.
Okay.
Kind of pragmatic wisdom. And they often see, now, wait a minute, this could go wrong. What should we do? And we often see that as negative, but no. They're just seeing, hey, everything's not awesome. Let's fix what needs to be broken. That would be Gen X. And I love what you, Kary, bring to the mix and your generation as well. I really do.
We were, those were the Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And the hair styles in the 80s and 90s. Oh my gosh. You remember that? Crazy.
Remember. Yeah.
Okay. Millennials have been a generation that's been thrown under the bus for about 15 years. Millennials, please forgive us, those of us that did that. I tried not to, but everybody in my generation, oh my gosh, kids today.
Yeah.
So millennials would now be nearing midlife and of course, still young professionals. I believe millennials bring so much to the table. First of all, oftentimes the energy in the room can come from millennials. Certainly it's true in our office. I think they bring idealism. Even though things are hard right now, they still have this hope that we can change the world and make things better. And I love that.
Yep.
So and by the way, there are more millennials in the workforce than any other generation right now.
Wow.
Think about that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So if you're older listening, I want you to just know, you can't keep saying millennials, I'll just wait for the next one coming along. I forget the millennials. You can't forget them. They're now the biggest generation on the earth and in the workforce.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be millennials. All right. Gen Z would be the youngest population in the workforce. They're not the youngest generation on earth. That would be the alpha generation following them. But Gen Z would just now be entering jobs. They can bring a hacker mindset. Gen Zers listening, isn't that true? You guys are hackers, not just on technology, on everything. You find a way to get behind the system, figure out how it works. That's why so many Gen Zers were figuring out a way to cheat on tests when we were going through the quarantine. They were moral. This is, if I can figure it out and I'm smarter than my teacher, why shouldn't I, pay myself off? So not everybody, but just know, very pragmatic, not unlike Gen X, their parents. And then, hacker mindset. Oftentimes they bring an entrepreneurial spirit. Kary, I love this data. Think about this, listeners. 72% of high school students in America want to be an entrepreneur.
Wow.
72%, 7 out of 10. Now, will they all succeed at that? No, they won't. But lots of them bring that mindset. They want to start something, not just join something. So how can we create gigs within our company or our organization where it feels like a startup? It feels like we're taking on a new project. That's cool. Maybe we put a Gen Zer in charge of that or co-leading it with a Gen Xer. I think that might be a way to collaborate instead of collide. So anyway, those are the 5 generations I talked about. The last appendix of the book talks about the alphas. So that's where I put them. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. So, and then you talk about bridge the gap. And does that get into your whole concept of that reverse mentoring?
Yeah, we cover that in that section. So I have found, as I have led organizations now for decades, that people bring into a team preferences, tensions, and expectations. And they're all 3 different, although they look alike, but we have to treat them differently. So if I come in to let's say I work for you, Kary, and I go, I come into the team, they're quiet, but they're real preferences. It would be great for the supervisor or the hiring manager to find out what are your preferences, just so if I can meet them without fruit basket upset, then I should do those. But thank God their preferences, that their demands, I might go, you know what, I probably shouldn't hire you. We'll never be that. And you'll be frustrated here.
Gotcha.
That's important to find out right from the beginning. So tensions are to be managed, not solved. We solve problems, we manage tensions. Here's a good example.
That's
yeah. If you work, well, we can double click on that if you want to, but here's what I've learned.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a tension between operations and sales.
Yes.
Sales are going to want to run and gun and sell everything. Operations are fulfillment. They're going, stop it. You just changed our product.
Yeah.
They're always going to be a tension. So let's manage it and just let people know this is not a bad workplace. It's just a thing,
Yes.
We have tensions in our marriages, do we not? Because we're different. We have tensions with our children because we're different. So we got to manage those. And then expectations. Oh my gosh. Here's my theory, and I put this in the book. Conflict expands based on the distance between expectations and reality. In other words, the wider the distance, the greater the tension and expectation. So here's an example I give because I think, Kary, you and I will both be as family people. If I tell my wife that I will be home at 7 o'clock for dinner and I come home at 10 after 7, it's not a big deal. If I come home at 10 after 9, it's a big deal. Okay. We have a little conversation. Now, it's not that my wife cannot live without me for 2 hours, but I created an expectation.
Yes.
And I think as leaders and team members, we need to remember, where are the expectations different? Let's get them out. Let's not let them become an elephant in the room. So that's that chapter.
That's so good. As I have 2 companies, I purposely stack the deck with different generations. We just had our Igniting Souls conference. We had everyone from Kiera Colson, who's going to be.
Yes, I love Kiera.
Yeah, yeah. And then we had a blockchain expert named Eric Diaz, who's 24.
Wow.
And crushing it in blockchain. And then we had everyone all the way up to Dan Sullivan, who I think is like 77.
Yeah.
So the beauty of that type of event, I mean, Tim, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go out here on a little zinger. Whenever I post speakers, and I want people to hear this is deep. Whenever I post speakers about who's coming to our conference, I always get racial comments.
Oh, wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, why is there not X, Y, Z, A, B, C? Because you can't have like an Indian female who's 40, you know what I'm saying? So, but I rarely get age.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you don't hear that. You don't hear like, hey, where's your Z speaker?
Yeah.
Where's your millennials? Where's your boomer? Where's your silent generation? Why do you think that's a blind spot, Tim?
I do. And here's why. If we think about the issue of diversity, isn't it really, in essence, a perspective difference? For instance, you mentioned race. Clearly, there's so many races living in America. And all of them bring a perspective that makes sense if we think about it.
Yeah.
So here's the phrase I talk about in the book. This might be worth scribbling down because this helps me. Context explains conduct. Context explains conduct. If I understand the context of a younger generation, I still may not love it, but at least I understand that context explains the conduct of their life. So yes, when you have Gen Z, millennial, Gen X, boomer, builder, which you had, it sounds like there was a wide range of generations.
And races.
And races, that's right. We need to listen, if for no other reason. They're probably going to bring a perspective I would not have thought of myself. And that makes me grow. That's the curiosity piece. Yeah.
Wow. Look at this. Pam Pippin, who's a John Maxwell certified coach, speaker, trainer. She says, I think age is the most common form of discrimination. It's like we don't see it yet.
Yes. Pam, that is so good. And you're right. We put up with it. We accept this. And I hope to stop it. Just like we want to stop racial inequity or gender inequity. We've got to stop this generational thing. Here's the term I love. Kary, you're going to smile. I am working to be a mentern. A mentern.
Oh, that's
so
good.
I'm a mentor and an intern.
Buy that domain. Buy that domain.
Well, Chip Conley was the first person I ever heard say it, but I have entered every interaction. I'm going to be a mentor in some ways to this person because I'm probably older and more experienced than them at 62,
I
but
like
I'm
that.
going to learn because I'm 18 when it comes to,
Oh, yeah.
Snapchat or TikTok or
Oh, yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
like
Oh, I
Tony,
love that.
in the paint store.
I
So
love that.
if I play the role of a mentor and I
Yes.
realize there's modern elders and young geniuses all around me,
Mm.
modern elders and young geniuses. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, it's
Mm.
going to be amazing. So at our office, we have 4 generations working. We learn and laugh with each other all the time
Mm.
because we've made this a thing. It's no longer an elephant in the room. We're talking about it and we're having a blast. So it's really fun.
That's so good. I'm gonna challenge people right now. We have a lot of people watching, and this will be replayed and shared all over. But I'm gonna challenge people to literally share this with somebody right now. Tag somebody because I truly believe, you hear peace in the world, peace on earth,
Yeah.
peace in the workplace. I think that this is the conversation
Yeah.
that will solve a lot of the
Yeah.
tension. I
Yeah.
mean, even our current president in power right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to just write off the entire presidential seat because of
Yeah.
age. And,
Yes.
and I get it. This isn't a political
Yeah.
talk, and,
Right. Right.
scriptures tell us to pray for our leaders, but it is easy to not hear someone and say, they're young, therefore they must think, act, be like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's discrimination right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it is. It's stereotyping. You know what I think? Kary, you and I've talked about this before and had a blast. Stereotyping is mental shortcuts.
Ah,
We
that's
take
good.
shortcuts because we don't want to think deeply or think hard about
Yes.
something. And it's just not helpful.
Yeah.
I'm not good when I stereotype my own adult children
Yeah.
at 34 and 30. I need to stop it. Just
Yeah.
like I don't want to be stereotyped. I don't
Right.
want, So
Oh,
if
man,
we
it's so
can
good.
just,
That's so good.
it's important. Yeah.
So share with us this amazing work that you did. I mean, you made it easy for our team. We just kind of put your thoughts together, but you have this GQ
Yeah.
assessment and you did this great job and the quiz. Like, what do we get when we do this quiz? What are we going to find out?
Yeah. Well, Kary, first of all, can I say thank you?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for pushing me in this area. You've been such a friend and helper.
Awesome.
You said we got to have an assessment. And so we work together. But
Yes.
listeners, this is really fun and it's absolutely free. So it's a great step into this journey where it won't cost anything. And you might go, oh, I need to go deeper. So the GQ is going to help you assess your generational quotient.
Mm,
Just like we have IQ and EQ, this is GQ.
mm,
So you'll answer about 41 questions, I think it is. And then you'll get a report afterwards saying, oh, you're really good with millennials, but not so good with Gen Z. Or you're really good with boomers, but not so good with, millennials. So it's just a helpful way to get a report. And then you'll get some suggested steps you can take to better connect with those 4 generations.
wow.
So I highly recommend take this free step. It'll take you maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes, 10 or 12
Sure.
minutes to do. And I think it'll be a great first step. And then you may say, okay, I got my marching orders, or better yet, get this reference guide, get the book, and then have it with you as like an encyclopedia on your shelf that you can pull
Yeah.
out and go, I'm referring to
Yes.
this every week as I interact with people that are unlike me. Yeah.
So good. It's so good. Okay. So you've even spoken at our conference, you've spoken all over. I mean, I look at your social media, I'm like, wow, where is he speaking today? But that's a true thing that you offer, is to have conversations with businesses, schools. Where, like, how can we contact you if we say
Yeah.
we need Tim Elmore to come to our regional meeting or something? What do we do?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I am
Oh,
loving starting conversations. By the way, the next place I think it's the next place I'll speak at is Ford Motor Company. So
wow.
think about this. Ford has been around 100 years or more, actually.
Mm,
Great automobile company. Nobody would doubt it's a great company. But because it's been around so long,
yeah.
you might have dealers that are 60 years old that don't understand a Gen Z buyer who
Mm,
doesn't want to have the used car sales
yeah.
experience. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just hard. It is
Mm,
hard to think new, but they need to think new. So I just think that it's hard to find a place where this would not be a relevant
Oh, yeah.
conversation to have.
And
So,
so we would go to your website,
yes,
timelmore.
I'm sorry. Yeah, getting back to your
No, no,
question.
that's great, yeah.
But
I
I
got a small
digress.
team here that's dropping in links because
Yeah,
even somebody who's listening right now said they have a whole bunch of
yeah,
HR professionals
yeah.
that they want to bring you to. So
Okay, so here's what I would say. There's two places. If
Yeah.
you're an organization or a business, really Chad Johnson is the person to talk to. He's the one that
Yeah.
schedules my calendar.
Yeah.
So you could just simply go to chad@maxwellleadership.com,
Mm,
chad@maxwellleadership.com, and just say, hey, we're interested in the 28th or whatever, and he'll be interacting with you. He's a great guy.
yeah.
Or if you're a school or an educational group,
Mm,
you could just go to growingleaders.com,
love
growingleaders.com.
it.
We'll be in front of teachers and principals and superintendents of districts. And we really love helping schools really get this right as well. So teachers are not frustrated at the freshmen. We're
Yes.
actually collaborating and we're mentors with those freshmen.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love this because it really gives tools. And I think that, I know the world would be better if we had these conversations. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, as a young pastor back in the day, I so wish that we would have had this
Yeah.
conversation because
Yeah.
the moment the young pastors had an idea, it was like, nope.
Yes. I
And there's
know.
these, right? There's these churches, academies.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
these places where it's like, you don't go there. You haven't done your dues.
Yeah. That's
You
right.
just sit
Paid your
on the
dues.
shelf and
Yeah.
collect dust, right?
No, Kary, you're right on. In fact, if we can just talk about that industry or that circle for a minute,
Sure.
churches might be the worst, and here's why.
Yeah.
We have this thing called the gospel that doesn't change. It's a
Yeah.
timeless story and message, which
Yeah.
we still need today. We need forgiveness. Everybody, atheists would say, yeah, I probably need to be forgiven for a few things.
Right, right, right.
But what we do is we mix up the gospel, that timeless message, with timely methods that we get them mixed up, like I said earlier.
Wow.
So when a new idea comes along, oh my gosh, we don't like it because we think we're compromising the gospel.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, it happens all the time. It happened when I was young, happened when you were young.
Yeah.
So I would just suggest separate methods from mission and
Mm,
remember the person that we're supposedly looking to. Jesus
yeah.
even said, old wine and new wineskins, it's awfully difficult. That's
Ah,
what we're talking about here. If we could just say, let's
yeah.
welcome the new wineskins for the new wine,
That's so
who
good.
knows what we could accomplish in the future. Yeah.
I love it. And just in closing, folks, you got to get the book. I'm just telling you. You'll be a better leader. You'll be a better parent. You'll be a better, I would even say, spouse. You'll just be a better person because we
Yeah.
all have human relationships and we all interact with people who are different.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Tim, this is a gift to people. Thank you for doing this book. I know a book is a lot of blood,
Yeah.
sweat, and tears. When is the audiobook coming out, man? Is it out?
That's a good question, and I should know, but I don't.
I bet you
I'm
it's
so
coming out.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Bet-
I know a lot of people prefer audio,
No, I bet
and
you it's coming out quick. I really believe it because I know when you recorded it was like August, so it's got to be
yeah.
dropping any
Yeah,
day. But
it will. It will not be long. And please forgive me for not knowing everybody. My mother-in-law is 90 and she doesn't see very well. And I just want Mimi to, she says, I'm waiting for the audio.
oh, is that what she says? I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
Yeah, that's cute. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, Tim, thank you so much. Stick on just
Mm.
for 60 seconds after and we'll chat. But folks, take the assessment, share this, tag a friend, and get the book. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Tim.
everybody. Yeah, you bet.